Okay, good morning, Kentucky. It's March 31st, 2015. Today is Cesar Chavez Day. 2 days ago, Samantha Ramsey would have turned 20 years old, so it was her birthday. Yesterday was a Palestinian Land Day. In the 70s, they was able to get a hold of some land, and then they celebrate that day every year. And that was yesterday. So yesterday is Palestinian Land Day. Samantha Ramsey's birthday was the day before, and today is Cesar Chavez Day. So, I want to just knock off just some of these news stories on top of the hour. Okay, so we have, here's a news story reported by WKYT, March 26, 2015, 5 days ago. An inmate walks away from Blackburn Correctional Complex. He just walks away. He's in jail and he just walks away. Inmate Timothy Day. So Timothy Day walked away from the prison around 9:30 p.m. Blackburn representatives said that Day was serving a 15-year sentence for 2 burglary convictions out of Meade County. He had been eligible for parole in May 2017. He's a 36-year-old white male, 5 foot 9 inches, 250 pounds. He has brown hair and blue eyes. So he just walked off the grounds. So how does that happen? I mean, jails are pretty, they're pretty much on lockdown. Everybody's, looking for you. He just walks away. It's not a breakout. It wasn't like, some big elaborate plan. He just saw an opportunity to walk away, and then he did. So, this just shows incompetence. It shows that there's a difference between, I think, people, the criminal justice system, many times, goes after people that hurt others and commit crimes. But I think most of the time it goes after powerless, poor people. And when they actually come across a real criminal who, can do damage, well, they're scared, and so they don't deal with them properly. They don't deal with them correctly. And so that's what I think happened here. And this isn't the first time that you've had inmates escape. You actually had 2 inmates escape on Wednesday after a jailer slowed down the prison van during the return to jail. This is March 26 also. So the same day, you have another, not a prison break, they escaped. And the way that they escaped was just that the jailer slowed down at a light and then they just walked away. So there's they don't have handcuffs. They don't have locked doors. The jailers or the police officers couldn't catch them. They didn't see them happening, right? They just saw them just take off, and they only caught, they're in jumpsuits. They have handcuffs. Why couldn't the jailer who was driving, that he didn't notice that they walked away? He couldn't have ran and chased them down. So it was Dallas Trent and John Trent. This is Beattyville, Kentucky. So Kentucky State Police, local police, and sheriff's deputies spent all day and into the evening Wednesday searching for 2 escapees, Dallas Trent, John Trent, along Kentucky 498 and Kentucky 11 in Lee County. A state police helicopter hovered above the area. The K-9 unit checked their scent. For some time during the day, Wednesday, emergency crews were preventing drivers from going down Highway 498 because that was the last place the men were seen. The 2 cousins escaped at 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Wolfe County dispatchers say the jailer was transporting the 2 prisoners back to the Three Forks Regional Detention Center from a court appearance when a vehicle slowed down in front of them. When the jailer slowed down, Dallas Trent, 19, John Trent, 23, both white males, jumped from his moving vehicle. Kentucky State Police Lieutenant Christopher Crockett says it's believed one of the inmates slipped his handcuff off and was able to unlock the van door. A van? They're driving around in a van. And so there's, 2 sort of jail breaks, jail walkaways, right? Jail let them go. And, we have 41 jailers who don't have any jails to even take care of. So talk about corruption, people just taking money just for the hell of it, living on the dole. You're not giving any services. You're not helping anybody. Why? So partial human skull is found in Clay County, and it could be decades old. So there's a big shocker. There's been so many unsolved murders in Clay County. Manchester, it's one of the poorest counties in Kentucky. It's one of those counties that has the exact clear in proportion. You'll see 80 to 90% of Clay County vote Republican, and then you also see 80 to 90% of Clay Countyans on welfare. So they're hypocrites. They're very much hypocrites. They're taking welfare, they're taking food stamps, they're on Medicaid, Social Security, they're taking some sort of, government welfare, and yet they're voting, they're biting the hand that feeds. They're voting Republican because they're pretending like they're not totally living off the government. And so it's not a surprise to me that there's, in Clay County, I want to say that the Senate president, the Republican Senate president, is from Manchester, so he's a Clay County representative. And then something else about Clay County, the guy who killed William Justice Goebel was a bushwhacker out of Clay County. So, Clay County has a host of issues, and unsolved murders is one of the big ones. Corruption in the local authorities is also a big one. So you have a partial human skull found in Clay County, could be decades old. Kentucky State Police verified the story. U.S. Forest Service officers found the remains early Monday morning while on their way to fight a forest fire in Clay County. So U.S. Forest Service, they're fighting a forest fire. They came across a partial human skull. So, and then that's pretty much all there is. They found a skull, and hopefully they'll find out who the person is, and maybe find out who killed him. But I would say, since there's unsolved murders today that have happened recently, a decades-old skull, it's unfortunate, it's sad. I don't think that we'll hear anything else about that story ever again. Here's something interesting. U of L employee nicknamed 50 Cent after a shootout near campus files whistleblower suit against the university. So essentially he's saying that there's no security at U of L. And Alan Tomes, this is written by Jason Riley, WDRB. I don't like how this is written because it only shows him and, all they have is the authorities, and then it's got the guy who filed the lawsuit. So there's this man, Alan Tomes. He's about to get robbed, and then he pulls a gun out. I guess there's a shooting, and they both get shot, and neither one of them die. But because Alan Tomes almost got robbed, stood up for himself, fired a gun, people started calling him 50 Cent, and then, in the lawsuit it says that was giving him emotional stress. And then they said that the administrators were utterly disgusted by the attention brought by his heroic actions. And Tomei said he shot Andre Cortez Lewis in self-defense near where he worked as an information technologist on January 28th. In the suit filed last week in Jefferson Circuit Court, Tomei said U of L removed him from his training position at the dental school after he sent out an email in September about campus safety issues. Tomei alleges he was moved to patient services where he was to work on collecting $3 million the university had failed to collect because of the shootout and in retaliation for whistleblowing on the lack of security. So he's moved down, right? He's done he's doing an administrator's job. He's doing desk work. So instead of doing what he wanted to do, training at the dental school, afterwards he's just doing patient services. So they said he was isolated from other employees. The university failed to provide proper accommodations for his injured leg. Where he was shot, they said they just provided him with a trash can to elevate his injured leg. The conditions nearly caused a deadly blood clot. So, there's a whole bunch of things. There's just recently you had an employee that came out of U of L that embezzled like $2 or $3 million. So $2 or $3 million is being embezzled, and so there's plenty of corruption that's going on at U of L. And I mean, that's just one guy. I think he's the patsy. He's taking a fall for it. And U of L employee nicknamed 50 Cent after the shootout near campus files whistleblower suit against the university. So this is another thing that's happened. Another story actually about U of L that had give them some negative publicity was the resource officer. So you had a LMPD was in a high school or a middle school, and he started choking a kid, right? Just started choking this kid, and then this kid passes out, and then now he's getting in trouble. The LMPD officer, which is shocking. I mean, they caught him on video really assaulting and choking this kid out, and then he like punched another kid for cutting in line, punched him in the face. And Jonathan Hardin is the LMPD officer's name, and now he's the one that's facing charges, and he's being put in, basically they're throwing, some fresh meat out to the ravenous public, like, hey, look, we're actually catching our guys doing bad stuff, so we're good people too. I don't believe you. I think whenever you got your hands tied behind your back, you all have to, do what's proper and what's right. But if your hands aren't tied behind your back, the reason why I brought that issue up, because U of L had a psychologist who went and talked to Jonathan Hardin and some of the employees that was working around him and some of the other officers, and they had heard complaints about the violence and about how, so she had complained, and then she wound up getting fired. And so she warned, everybody about this several years ago as psychologists at U of L, and they fired her because they said that the relationship between the LMPD and U of L was severely, dampened after her. And so she was a whistleblower. She stood up, and we could have prevented, this guy from choking these other kids and punching these kids in the face if we would have done something about it when we first heard about it, but we didn't do anything about it. Instead, we fired the whistleblower who said something about it, or we demoted them, just like this guy who, defended himself. He's getting demoted. And then allowed the criminal who actually was doing harm to others to go free. So it's absolutely topsy-turvy. It's absolutely topsy-turvy here. The criminal go free, they have a gun, and they're allowed to go, they could kill people, right? I mean, Samantha Ramsey was shot, and then you had Leon Brackens, Michael Newby shot in the back. I mean, if you had, jailers are rapists. In Louisville, there's rapist jailers there. Grant County had some rapist jailers too. And, if you have the authority, if you have some type of authority, the thin blue line, then you can sit there and defend one another, and you can get away with any crime that you want to get away with. And the reason, I'm pointing this out is because Kentucky is one of the most corrupt states by a Harvard study. And there's a lot of corruption that came out. 20 years ago, we had Operation Bop Trot, where the horse racing industry bought a bunch of legislators out for like $100 or $200 a piece. And Richie Farmer, the agricultural commissioner, he was buying a bunch of personal items with the agricultural commissioner money. And then just recently, this is actually some, news, because it was like new news. I'm going to get into some history about the candidates, that's in Kentucky here shortly. But former Morgan County Judge Executive sentenced to 7 years. So there's a Morgan County Judge Executive. The West Liberty had got hit up by an an F3 tornado. Right, F3. So a big tornado just ravaged them. I think it killed a couple people, but destroyed their towns. It got a bunch of newspaper headlines several years ago. Obama gave a bunch of money so they could restore and fix their place up. But you had the Judge Executive, Tim Conley, who was, the hero of Morgan County, who led these efforts and helped, everybody out. But he's going to go to prison for 7 years. Richie Farmer went to jail for several years. And this is the feds. This is the federal people who's actually getting involved. This is not Kentucky policing themselves. It takes, again, you either have to have videotape of them outright just choking a kid until they pass out, or I guess they got the goods on him. What Tim Conley did, he was taking bribes from a bridge construction company. And so they would give him $100,000 to $200,000, and then he would make sure that the bids that the company had bid was the lowest bid. So it was in private. That's how companies work. That's how government works, right? So they want to do, if I'm the mayor of a city and I want to build a bridge, well, there's only going to be so many construction companies that could build that bridge. They submit a proposal. They submit how much it would cost and, how long it will take and all their projections. And then we as the council would decide what we want. Well, Tim Conley was taking these bids and he was taking them into the back office and looking at all the bids, making sure that his contractor guy was the lowest bid, and then providing it to the council, and then the council would, go with the cheapest one, and then eventually, he would get his bridge. So basically, he was helping his buddy out. It was nepotism. He's helping his friends out, and it's cronyism, and it's a spoil system, right? It's the boss machine. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. And so actually I like to see people who have power, go behind bars. We should be arresting, some of these criminal bankers out here. But 7 years, I just feel like he's actually kind of, he shouldn't have been corrupt. He shouldn't have been, taking those bribes. And so I don't know. I don't hate the guy because I feel like 7 years is a long time to be in there, and $100,000 to $200,000. That's not, I've heard worse. We spent all the money on the war, and we just dumped millions of dollars out there, and then, the Pentagon says we don't know where all that money went, so there was no accountability for any of the money. So, this just happened this January. So there is, there are some good people out there. January 27th, 2015, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. 7 years. And, he broke the law, so I don't feel sorry for him. It's just that 7 years is a long time. And $100,000, $200,000, and we have legalized bribing right now. So essentially, if that bridge guy, instead of just paying him money to knock the bids down, instead he could have just given him political donations, right? Or just started a PAC group, and then through that PAC funneled as much money as he could possibly have wanted to do. So there's legalized bribery. We already have legalized bribery, and so for an official who is used to taking money from people, public, corporations, bankers, whoever, and then using that money for their political campaigns, next time they see that same person, and that same person says, hey, remember that how I give you that money for your campaign? Yeah, I remember. Well, how about if I give you some more money, and then you can give me some contracts? That way I get something for my money. And so it's wrong, it's corruption, it's bullshit. It's why we're one of the most corrupt states out here. But there's a culture of it. I mean, the culture is already, the legal corruption has already created a culture of, bribery and, pay-as-you-go type system. Okay, so that's the news off the top of the hour. And, I wanted to talk about a little bit about the governor's race too. I'm sort of getting blasted in the media. There's a couple articles, but the one, Joe Derp, he went ahead and just said, some crap, and then they just kind of just repeated it over and over again. But there's a lot of things that were not being, right now we have 5 treasurers. The Democratic Party, the Republicans have about 5 elections going on. The Democrats have 3. Just 3 elections. That's all there is. So there's only 3 elections. So the fact that we're being focused on a lieutenant governor, which is a sinecure position, and none of the other lieutenant governors have, been talked about. None of the treasurers, none of the races. Nobody is actually asking these guys who they are and what they want to do. So none of the races are even being covered. There's a treasurer's race, and then there's a Secretary of State race. Allison and Charles Prophet is running against each other, and then the treasurer's race, there's 5 candidates. So the Democrat constituency needs the media to explain who these 5 candidates are, what they plan on doing, what kind of treasurer they will be. There's actually one Republican candidate says that he's going to become the treasurer, and then he's going to resign because he thinks that the treasurer position is irrelevant. And that's quite fascinating. He might win just for that reason. And so the Democrats who are running not only have to say that they're going to do a good job, but they actually have to defend the position of treasurer. And so as a watchdog, I think a treasurer could be a good thing, but they're the money person. So there is the big treasurer scandal, dictates Holmes or something, I don't know. Back about 100 years ago, the guy just took all the money in Kentucky and just ran. And that was the treasurer who did that. But since then, they don't have as much power. And then we got, we got 2 candidates for governor. And it's not just Jack Conway, but it's also Sandy Overly. Now, the updates, this isn't really updates, but it's sort of, I guess they're asterisks by their names. And it also is related to policy, So if you had, I don't know, I mean, character matters, but, it matters. So they want to get mad at me. Let's just talk about me for a second. So, I got frustrated with the dean, and I said to the dean, to hell with it. Let's just have a boxing match. Let's just solve this. And so that's the crime of the century. But frankly, it's a private, they took $50,000. It's a student loan thing. They didn't teach a damn thing. They cared more about obedience, capitulation, compliance than actually educating. Learning was never a part of the system. And I got to see behind the curtain. The Wizard of Oz, you got to see behind the curtain. And it is bullshit. It is 100% compliance. They're just manipulating, just controlling you, micromanaging you. And they're crappy people. They don't allow you to display your individuality. They're the stars of the show, the sage on the stage that you're supposed to worship. And so no solidarity is being created amongst the students. No real learning is happening. It's just an absolute, horrible system. And I never oppose them or mean, but I just question it, and that just questioning, education and what it all means was enough of a reason to sort of get their ire. So, I mean, this is the student loan industry, and Kentucky is a state that they can, if you don't pay your student loans back, then they could kick, your license. They could take your professional license away. Well, they're taking away your ability to pay off the loan. And, there's also, why do we spend so much money on colleges? Mexico has free college. Germany has free college for not just Germans, but for Americans too. Everybody gets free college internationally. And so we're sitting here, being blinded with debt for an education that doesn't matter, for an archaic education that doesn't work. It's, outdated. And, it's teacher training school. I think I could have paid a homeless guy $50,000 and he would have done a better job teaching because he would have listened to me, and then I would have got to articulate what, I think and how I see things instead of just being a sit down, shut up student. After 2 years, and then I still get up and I'm still nervous. What did you teach? They only had 2 opportunities to stand up and teach, and then I got heckled, by the classmates, and the teacher just, didn't like that I questioned things, so who gives a crap? So the student loan industry is ridiculous. We spend all this money for, if I was in engineering or computer repair or, even like welding or plumbing, I would have a trade that I could actually go out. Now it's just, teacher training felt like it was 2 years of how to oppress a classroom. It's all about classroom management and 100% compliance. You got to show them who's boss and tell them to shut up, and then the more that they're obedient, the more they'll learn. That's what they, that's their, perspective, and that's a perspective I 100% disagree with. And I can work with those Nazis, but those Nazis just can't work with me. To be laid back and humble and to, sort of allow people to express themselves. People don't understand that. Like, that doesn't make sense. You're not bossing me around. I don't know. You're the most, this, I don't understand, it's policy. So, okay, yeah, you're coming after me for, asking the dean to go to a boxing match, but you completely ignored the student loan crisis, the student loan information, the lack of knowledge, the lack of information, the lack of solidarity, and the complete oppression. It was total fascist totalitarianism. Well, why do we have the obedience, to corruption and war and poverty that we have today? Is because of the education system. That's what they taught us. They taught us to be obedient. So I feel like if you're going to say something about someone's personal life, you got to tie it into the policy. Okay, so that was the whole point of saying all of that. And so Matt Conway, Matt Conway is Jack Conway's brother, and he's going to get, he's going to punch a woman in the face. He's being charged with the DUI, and then he was being under investigation for not just possession of drugs, but for trafficking. So that means he's not just, a drug user, but he's actually like selling drugs. Now he would just been a probe in the investigation, and so therefore, having a probe in the investigation. Just being accused of anything does not admit guilt of anything. But fascinating, fascinating. He's being investigated for drugs, and then he gets tipped off. So did the Attorney General have something to do with that? I would think I wouldn't hate him if he did. And so I don't think it's that far of a stretch to think that maybe he might have said, hey, hey, Matt, you're being investigated. You probably want to keep an eye out for that. And then eventually the people who had tipped them off about the investigation actually wind up getting fired. So the whistleblowers again gets fired, and then everything just kind of falls apart. Matt Conway was, charged with hitting a woman in the face. This is last year, February 2014. So he's charged with hitting a woman in the face. Yeah, Jack Conway isn't his brother. My point with this thing is that Jack Conway is one of the biggest advocates for the war on drugs. You want to talk about criminal? The war on drugs is so freaking criminal, it's not even funny. If I'm sitting here drinking a beer and you beat the shit out of me and I didn't hurt nobody, you're the goddamn criminal. Violence, assault, false arrest, false imprisonment, malicious prosecution, these are crimes. And if we can't agree that, violence is a crime, then where are we as a society? So, the war on drugs is such bullshit. And here you have Jack Conway, who's, one of the biggest advocates for the war on drugs, making everything illegal, right? Not just heroin and meth and Oxycontin, but also NyQuil, Robitussin, Salvia, anything they can, even DUIs. If you get one DUI now and you're speeding, you're going to get an interlock put on your car. So that means you have to blow, a perfect score. You have to buy the device. You have to pay all the fees, the court cost, and then, for one time. So there's no excuses. There's zero tolerance for everything that's out there. I mean, this is just, the totalitarian fascism is just complete. So, the fact that it's more fascist totalitarian in Kentucky than it is in North Korea. Kim Jong-un has legalized marijuana. You can smoke marijuana in North Korea. So Kentucky is more fascist totalitarian in, every area, not just cannabis. And so this is Jack Conway. This is Jack Conway's baby. This is what he's been doing. Jack Conway is known for the sex crimes, getting all the images off the internet. Good stuff. And he's also known for gay marriage. He cried, right? He cried about gay marriage, had a turn of heart, evolved. And, another good thing. And the war on drugs. That's his baby. That's what he does. And I think it's absolutely despicable. He's the criminal. He's using the white-collar mafia is just enriching themselves, and they're not solving the crime. Look at the Colorado model. The Colorado model, you see that there's less crimes, less addiction, and marijuana cures cancer. So if you are in favor of crimes and you're in favor of overdosing and you're in favor of cancer, keep it up with your stupid fucking war on drugs. But if you're, you want less addictions and you want less crime, that's what we're seeing in Colorado. Less addictions, less crime, and, less cancer and more tax revenue and many other benefits. All implementations of the war on drug has failed and every alternative has succeeded. And we have not got our minds wrapped around this idea yet. That we're Americans and we have a right to our own body. No, you shouldn't be drinking, impaired or driving impaired. And no, you shouldn't be trafficking and kids should be protected. But as adults, we have a right to do with, if I want to drink bleach, are you going to make bleach illegal? If I want to stick a fork in my eye, you're going to make forks illegal? If anything, if I have a problem with wanting to stick forks in my eyes, it's my right if I want to do it. You just have to kind of let me do it. But really, how do you stop a person who has, just this compulsion to want to stick forks in their eyes? Love, tender, compassionate tenderness. I care about you. Please don't do that. Maybe education. Maybe he just doesn't realize, sticking forks in people's eyes. Hey, if you stick your fork in your eye, you can't ever see it. Oh, no kidding. I didn't know that. Thank you for, letting me know. And so the war on drugs is such bullshit. And so when Jack Conway sees Matt Conway being under investigation, he says, hey, Matt, you're under investigation, either stop selling the drugs or just watch out, there might be someone that has a vendetta against you. So it just shows you that Jack Conway knows how fascist, totalitarian the system is. When it's his own brother being investigated, he knows that his life can get fucked. And so since he don't want his brother's life to get fucked, he give him a heads up and say, hey, what's going on? So that's the type of love and, compassion that we need. It's a public health, a public health issue. And so if Jack Conway can treat Kentuckians the same way he treats Matt Conway, then we would have a better society. But he doesn't. And so that's nepotism. It shows hypocrisy. It shows that he's willing to ruin Kentuckians' lives. But when it comes to his own family, his own brothers, he's going to, give them an exception. And so, I'm not down with that. I just don't like that. Detectives Ronald Russ and Scott Wilson were the ones that warned Matthew Conway. And then eventually, you're going to see this guy get fired by the police chief. So the people who actually let him know is the one that wind up getting fired by the police chief, which is, remarkable. The person who told you that the investigation was happening is the one that got fired. So that's Matt Conway. That's Jack's brother. And he's not the only candidate. Will T. Scott. Will T. Scott also had a son who got charged with giving Adderall out. Okay, so this is I feel for Andrew Scott. So Andrew Scott is Will T. Scott's son. He's working with the Administrative Office of Court, so he's got a good, comfortable job, right? Nepotism, he was able to get some money. And then it says that he's at the Appalachian School of Law in Buchanan County, Virginia, and they received an anonymous tip that Andrew Scott was selling drugs. A young woman and two undercover officers stopped by his hotel and then invited him to their room. So you had three people, right? Two males and a woman. Hey, you want to party? Let's party. And then when they were having drinks, the woman persuaded Andrew Scott to give her one Adderall pill. And so Andrew Scott is basically going to, I think he got charged with a felony. He got charged with a felony for it. For giving one Adderall pill to a woman who had asked him for it. Yeah, it's prescribed to him. He shouldn't have been giving it to anybody else. But if there's a woman in danger and she's like, oh, please, and begs for it, like it's entrapment. It's entrapment. If you create conditions that normally, Andrew Scott wouldn't have given the Adderall to anybody, but because she's a, damsel in distress, she, made him do something that it typically wouldn't do. And it's, oh my God, it's Adderall. Like, it's one pill of Adderall, and he's getting a felony. He wound up, I think, resigning from his post. And, but again, he gets protected. He got indicted. He was actually indicted, but eventually he accepted to a lesser charge. And then he got a plea deal for a misdemeanor conviction of a possession of a Class 2 misdemeanor. So that's what happened with Andrew Scott. And so he was hired as a pre-trial officer and then promoted to supervisor. He got, some other things. So, both of these guys, I think they dropped out or they resigned. And so eventually, their lives were kind of ruined by these things. So it's not like, Will T. Scott and Jack Conway helped them get away scot-free, because eventually Matt Conway is no longer the prosecutor, and then Andrew Scott wound up losing his job too. So there's a punishment. They did, it's not even the nepotism. It's just more that when their own family is being, charged with these horrible draconian drug law crimes, that's when they go into overdrive and they pull all the punches to make sure that their own doesn't get caught in the system that they created. They know that this web of lies is very vicious and very harsh, and you might not be able to get out of it. And, once you've been victimized, lose your job, been in prison, lost your family and reputation, and now all you have is a bunch of prison friends, right? A bunch of people that understand criminology to a high degree. You get a PhD in criminology, and then you come out and you aren't able to get any job because you got a felony conviction. So what are you supposed to do? How are you going to make money? How are you going to get bread? Well, you have to go right back to that same lifestyle of slinging. And so really we're not solving the situation. It's just a rotating door, and it's a failure. It's an absolute failure. And so, fuck the war on drugs. If they would have the same compassion that they showed for their own, then we would actually have a better system. But instead, you just see how, you see the hypocrisy, you see the difference, you see that they understand that the system that they created is very harsh and is not fair. And so when their own get accused, they go into overdrive and they cover up their asses. So, another thing that I came across here with the lieutenant governor candidate. So Jack Conway and Sandy Overly are the ones that's running against Jeff Young and I. And they're, Jack Conway is basically the presumptive governor. You have all the Republicans sort of, hating on him, and then, I'm criticizing him on the issues. And, that's just, I want to make it known that I'm not like saying, hey, Jack Conway, you're a dirty, rotten piece of shit bitch, you ain't shit. I ain't saying that. I'm just saying I'm attacking him on his policies. I showed his support when he says that abortion should be rare, safe, and legal. That's good. When he says that gay marriage it should be acceptable, that's a good thing. When he says that Obamacare being implemented in Kentucky was a good thing, I agree with him on these things, on these issues. But when he says that, the biggest problem that Kentucky is faced with is a scourge of drugs, I just don't believe it. I think it's poverty. I think it's lack of solidarity, lack of running water. I mean, we got a lot of major issues that we're confronted with. And so, the hypocrisy. So, I don't know. I forgive myself. So, Sandy Overly. This is an article written by the Hillbilly, a DUI. Matt Conway also faced a DUI charge. He says he smelled of alcohol and failed a field sobriety test. This was the LMPD at a red light, Breckenridge Lane and Willis Avenue. So this is 2012, so he's got in several, lots of issues, and some reason he seems to be getting away with it. Stengel had punished Matt Conway, so he got in trouble for his job because of being alerted to it or something. Police Chief Robert White fired Detective Ronald Russ in December. He was the one that had tipped them off and said, hey, this is what's going on. So, everybody loses their jobs whenever this, oh my God, it's like damage control. Jack Conway in his mind says, hey, brother, just resign your post. That's how he took care of it, right? There's a bad thing, you resigned. Situation goes away, the media doesn't eat it up, and they don't keep on hitting on them until they go down. And so that's the way he did it, as damage control. But I feel like if you're not guilty, you should push it all the way, right? You're investigating me? Fine, investigate me. Ask me all the questions you want to. But when you find that there ain't shit, then I'm going to investigate you or something. I don't know. He's got, right? He can investigate people. So the Hillbilly Report reported that Sandy Overly is profiting from third-party property tax liens. And he actually has two screenshots of Boyd County Master Commissioner sale and then Business First. There's two things where they win property. These law firms win property because of a tax lien certificate that somebody had bought. So this is a Hillbilly Report, right? Jim Pence, he's sitting there asking a few questions. Sandy, please feel free to respond in the comments section. Third parties buying delinquent tax bills. Why does this sort of thing smell to high heaven? Let me give you an example why I believe this smells. Let's say an old lady that lives alone, has very valuable property, is paid for, and you want that property, you want to squeeze some money from the rich old lady. Well, here's how you can do it. You just get one of your political pals, send her a tax bill to the wrong address. When the rich old lady is late on her tax bill, just pay that tax yourself. If you pay for their taxes, you have a lien on her property. Not only will she have to pay her taxes, but you can collect 12% on the money you put out. Your lawyer pal will also get a fee. Hell, and the rich old lady's tax bill could balloon from $372 to $2,320. So it went from $300 to $2,000. That's absolute highway robbery. It's absolute criminal. And the only people that can know how to do this are the ones that can buy those tax lien certificates up. So how many people knows about tax lien certificates? Robert Kiyosaki actually said that had one of the best rates of return, investing in tax lien certificates, rich dad, poor dad. And so, tax lien certificate, right? Exactly what I just said. You can't pay your taxes. You miss your taxes. You just forget to pay for them. Someone can pay for your taxes, and then you got to pay for them. You got to pay the interest rate, the legal fees, and any other damn fees that they want to throw on top of it. In addition to paying for your taxes. If you don't pay for those taxes, then they'll take your property. So it's a good fucking racket, right? It's a good fucking racket. As people say, you can never own your property forever because we got property taxes, and we do have a very intricate property tax system. They come in, check your buildings, check everything that's on your land, and then they tax the shit out of you for anything that you might own that have some value. So a tax lien certificate, if you don't pay your taxes for 1 year, someone else pays those taxes. You can't pay those taxes, and they take your damn land. Sandy Overly is a part of this. Her company was a part of this for the Boyd County Master Commissioner sale. This is the Hillbilly Report, and it's Ashland, Kentucky, Boyd County. This is where Ashley Judd's from, and ad valorem taxes $451 plus interest accrued until the date of the judgment. Plus interest accrued in the amount, plus interest on the principal, 12% per annum until the date of the judgment, thereafter paid, plus miscellaneous fees. Oh, and plus there's a miscellaneous fee. What's this miscellaneous fee? Nah, we just want to see if you'll complain about it, if you'll just shut your damn mouth and pay for it. So this matters. This matters. This is Sandy Overly. So this is the lieutenant governor candidate. This shows are they for working class people? Are they working for working class families? If you're doing this sort of white-collar crime type stuff, these insider trading secrets, this says that you actually are manipulating poor and you're trying to get one over on somebody. Somebody forgot to pay their taxes. Now you just charge them $2,000 extra and they lost their entire, you gained property and then you helped your client make money as a lawyer. You did good, right? But you just fucked over somebody on their land and you fucked over somebody that didn't deserve it. And so you can't go around fucking people over. Lawyers have to do that type of shit, right? Sit there, exploit people's conflicts, and try to, frack as much money out of people as they can for doing the least amount of work. And so that's important. That's important. That's a little bit of update. This isn't a recent one. This is 2012, and she's been the House Representatives leader for quite some time. The representative, so every day that she was working for 30 days, she actually got $200. $200 times 30, $200 times 30. Is that 60 or 6,000? It's $6,000. So she got $6,000, right, for passing these crappy laws. And then they also get like $135 per day per diem. Which I guess, does that mean they're making actually $300, $400 a day? They keep on doing better. They get pensions. And so that was just a little bit of information about how much they make. The shitty laws, I'm going to end off with the shitty laws. This is what the laws that Sandy Overly tried to help. The tow truck drivers can now steal the stuff out of your car to pay for the fees that they put on you. Fracking is now legal. Senate Bill 186. Senate Bill 78 is the tow truck driver stealing bill. Fracking is legal. Senate Bill 186. So we're going to have more earthquakes and poisoned groundwater. Halliburton's going to make a ton of money. The internet gambling at retail stores is now illegal. Right? I've said these before, but I'm going to keep repeating them because, the media is not telling us about this stuff. So now at retail stores, you cannot gamble on the internet and make money at retail stores, making gambling further illegal than what it already was. More money for old-ass millionaire judges bill, House Bill 241. The gambling bill is Senate Bill 28. Right to beat the shit out of mental patients, Senate Bill 51. The AT&T deregulation law, House Bill 152. The county attorney fees for their traffic safety programs law, Senate Bill 117. House Bill 312. The government's going to get your horses and cows, House Bill 24. the making of NyQuil and Robitussin and dextromethorphan illegal for minors. Senate Bill 39 is primary day. Schools can be functioning. It should be sacred. Election day should be. House Bill 299, the 26-cent per gallon of gasoline tax floor of 2015. So, Senate Bill 204, Puzzling Bankers Fraudulent Transfers Act, outlawing of doctor-owned pharmacies, prohibition of healthcare providers soliciting business from those injured in car accidents, and then the heroin bill, aka the white-collar mafia enrichment super law. The official name for the heroin bill was an act relating to contracts for healthcare services for inmates. It's all about the money. It's all about the healthcare industry that wants the contract for these prisons. That's why the heroin bill got passed. So, you know, we were supposed to, the needle exchanges and all this other thing, the treatment, we're supposed to care about that. All we did was just bloat up the prosecutorial and police state, the fascist totalitarianism that we've, you know, that's been around the entire time. And they're going to make more money for themselves. The drug dealers are going to make a ton of money because now that it's more illegal, they can up their prices. And so higher the risk, higher the reward. This isn't going to change anything. If we were serious about the war on drugs, if we want lower crime, less addiction, and less cancer, we would be employing the Colorado model. But we're not doing the Colorado model. We like to be 20 years behind everybody else. I don't know why we do that. We should be in front of everybody. Kentucky should be first. And so, you know, go Kentucky. So that wraps it up. That's a little bit of news, a little bit of an update on the governor's race, and some of the shitty laws that Frankfurt has passed. This is what we paid $200, you know, for everybody to make sure that old-ass millionaires get more money, right? Make sure fracking is totally legal. Those companies can go in and run, you know, just ravish the land, just rape the hillsides, decapitate. You know, do whatever they need in order to get that, you know, that good stuff from underneath the ground, even if it destroys the ecosystem and creates, you know, bad landscapes. Tow truck drivers can steal your stuff now. You can beat the shit out of mental patients. They have mental illness, and now you're oppressing them and putting violence on them. Maybe that's why they are crazy, because they are confronted with oppression and violence. AT&T deregulation law, big corporation runs roughshod, do whatever they want to do. NyQuil, Robitussin. Something in Covington. East Pike and Madison Avenue. Supposed to come up here for this library charge. Supposedly there's a library I checked out 11 years ago, and they released me on my own, for actually a $100 bail. I hope I don't lose the fucking bail. They should just put it on the docket again, right? So I guess I have to drive back to Breckenridge and drive back up here just because the clerk lady wouldn't just tell me what I need to do. Anyways, Covington. So is this 10th and Scott Boulevard? I want to talk a little bit more about what I just witnessed. $503 bond. So right now I am a wanted man. I have a warrant out for my arrest again. And it's $503 bucks for a fucking $20, you know, look at this shit, for a $20 fucking book. They've already got a $100 bail. They've arrested me. They've stolen several hours of my fucking life. And so it's $503 fucking dollars. On top of that, you got so I got a, you know, a bench warrant right now. So I mean, if they want to actually come by, and if a cop wanted to be a dick, he could actually put me in jail right now. But that's over a fucking library book. You know what I mean? Like, this is an injustice system. I live in Breckenridge County. I drove 3 fucking hours away. I called the lady. She couldn't say that. In Louisville, they just redocket the case. So they just redocket it. And I think I passed my fucking stop, actually. I'm going to start walking this direction. was by the Legal Aid Society, wherever that is. So anyways, I got a warrant, a $503, so a $100 bond. Now I got a $503 bond over a goddamn fucking library book. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is crime and punishment. This is justice. This is injustice. This is bullshit. You know, if they could tell me the title of the book, I'll pay the $20 fucking. But to go through all this rigmarole, I should make them go through a bunch of rigmarole, and I should sue the shit out of them too for false arrest. So let's talk a little bit about this case here. This is just bullshit all the time that I'm wasting. I mean, it sucks that I don't have a job. I wish I did. But if I did have a job, I'd have to take the day off, and then if I was to have missed my court date again, I tried to get there on time. It was just that, you know, he let out court way early, and it was a far drive. I'm living in Central Standard Time, so it's a different time zone. Anyways, it's going to get on the docket tomorrow. But just the cost. So today I had to, my entire Monday is shot. It's already 2 or 3 o'clock. I had to pay $40 in gas. I did get a meal at a Chinese restaurant. I had a beer too, so it wound up being $12, $13 plus $2, $3 tip, so that's $16. So that's $56 in, you know, several hours of my life over a library book, which I would pay for. They don't even probably know the title of the library book, which I'll challenge them on it. Do you even know what the library book, what the title is that you're accusing me of stealing? And, you know, a $100 bond is what I got in the Warren County Jail. They issued a $503 bench warrant. So Kenton County has issued another warrant against me. But this one I know about, and I'm going to get it resolved tomorrow. And tomorrow I have Breckenridge County. That's another pre-trial hearing. I had 2 court dates and arraignment. I said not guilty in front of Judge Embry, maybe? I don't know. So the judge of Breckenridge County, I had to, you know, say not guilty or no contest, which are the only 2 options you should ever say. Never say guilty. Only no contest or not guilty. Do an Alford plea. There's no reason in any circumstance to ever say guilty. So, unless they do some plea bargain deal with you or something. But, done the arraignment, and then I got my public pretender. So I got 3 lawyers right now, 5 cases pending. So the entire campaign might be just spent in the court system. And this is bullshit. This is justice. This is criminal justice. This is Frankfurt looking for ways to make revenue, busting people over dumb, petty bullshit. It's 11 years. The statute of limitations is up. Even if it was like, you know, a crime where you walked in and took something. Yeah, but I didn't do that. You know, I'd like to see the title of the book. That if I know the title of the book, that would give me a clearer picture if I had checked it out or not. I might even still have it. I did have a pile of books in Bellevue, in that abandoned building. I lived in an abandoned building in Bellevue for many months. There's a Kentucky River that goes all the way to Frankfurt, which is cool because that's Carroll County, and that's right out of where I'm at. So I'm on 71 South right now, Green Bottom Road. So a lot of flat land, nice big pond there, nice little community of town. So southbound 71, go through Louisville, and then Breckenridge is the next county below Jefferson, or below Meade County, and then Breckenridge. So, you know, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. $500 bail bond, and I got a fucking warrant out from. I got another fucking warrant on top of this other warrant that Judge Easterling had filed in 2011. So he found out about this so-called charge 7 years after the fact and still issued the warrant. And you know, that fucks up my day. That fucks up my life. If I had a job and I drove to Bowling Green, like, fuck Bowling Green. Like, seriously, fuck that whole city. Y'all got a bunch of state troopers that are just pulling people over for no goddamn fucking reason. It's like there's nothing else better going on. And that puts a sour taste in my mouth. I've seen the jails. Your jailers are, they have a rapist mentality. I didn't see any crime happen, but they were nice people. They could not empathize with those that they felt were inferior, those that were incarcerated. Then you're presumed innocent till proven guilty, right? Fucking library book. You could have sent a goddamn notice in the mail. You know, Mitch McConnell sends election flyer notices trying to scare people to not to vote. You know, you send me a notice saying, hey, you got this library book out, you need to, make amends with it. Well, I'm not going to do that. That don't seem to make too much sense. It's a $20, at the most, it's a $20 fucking book if there's a book at all, and it's statute of limitations 11 years ago. Only felonies, you get to charge felonies until, there's no statute of limitations for felonies. But for misdemeanors, especially a petty, tiny misdemeanor such as this is 11 years ago. It should be dismissed, right away. This is ridiculous. I should be able to make a phone call and get this situation handled. Unfortunately, we don't have a system that gives a fuck about the truth or justice about what's actually going on. Easterling, what I've read about him is he took a bunch of heroin addicts that he just convicted and then give them a speech in front of the media. Right, he wanted to look tough for his constituency on heroin. He gets political donations, so he cares about, the wealthy and his judgeships and, the lawyers. And so they need this war on drugs. Without this war on drugs, they don't have shit to do. They need to use that to victimize people. But just the way he made this speech, it just gives me an idea of who he is. The cops are the ones that go out there and hit people over the head and really fucking humiliate and disrespect them in jail and shit. And so the judge, he wants to jump on board and be like, hey, I'm a tough guy too. Not really. I mean, we don't want you to be tough. We don't care if you're tough. We want you to be fair. We want you to be just. And we want you to get to the truth and to, have an even-handed, perspective. They say there's two sides to every story. I think it's infinite sides to every story. One person could have 50 different versions of the same story. It's Kentucky 2997, a famous Kentucky 2997. There's a billboard up there. That Chinese restaurant, I couldn't believe the beer was $6. I had a chocolate stout. It was delicious. I had Hunan beef. It was right down the road. I think it was on Madison Street. The Legal Aid Society didn't have no time to help. I want to sue these bastards. I mean, $500 bail bond, $100 bond for Warren County, 2 days time, and if they don't even have any evidence, this is a false arrest, and I should be comped for my pay, and I should be comped for my, all the money that I paid into this, ordeal and time, and, money for my time. And punitive damages. I mean, how many people do they fuck? I mean, is this something Kenton County does every day? Like I said before, it ain't even worth checking out a book. The library is so fucking useless. We got the internet. We don't need a library. Libraries need to be fun or else they're going to become obsolete. And we need libraries. And we need them to be fun and inviting, and you need to be able to come in and check out a book. And they need to have a better sort of system, a criminal justice system that chase after. Seinfeld had Mr. Bookman, so he had the specific library system, investigator that would actually go out and fish these books out. And I don't interest or something. I think if I could just replace the book, supposedly there's a book that I took. If I replace the book, then you got your property back. I just checked it out for 11 years and finally give it back. It's the government's property. We paid for that shit anyways, right? Library and the books, all that's taxpayer funded. So all that's, you know, for us anyways. And so is the courts and the cops and all these fuckers. But, you know, it's an adversarial process. So once you walk through those doors and get before the judge, he wants to make some good marks and look good before the media, and it's all on record. So he don't want to look like a chump. He don't want to be, you know, probably disagreements. You don't want to look him in the eye and all this other stupid bullshit. I remember going to Sarah McLaughlin, Judge Sarah McLaughlin, I think at McLaughlin or something, Coughlin, in Louisville, and I was sort of picking a fight with her because I was, you know, you're going to give me a lawyer, you're going to give me a trial, I don't have any money, and, you know, I'm innocent until proven guilty. This shit is bullshit. And she was really wanting to fight. Oh, really? You know, you could have had a job. She's sitting there preaching at me, and but I was sitting there arguing right back with her. So I was like, how am I supposed to get a job when I have this court case over my head? And then she was like, pretending to be thoughtful about it. You know, I will allow this, you know, because I just kept arguing. I just kept having one, you know, rebuttal after another. So my retortfulness eventually made her sort of give in. Being in college, I think she probably knew that I understood my rights and that you have to give me a public attorney. And if you don't do that, you got to give me a trial. I got both Kentucky and the United States Constitution that's backing me on that. So I talk way better too, just when I'm driving sort of in this peaceful states. My truck held up. I've got to get my right wheel fixed of my truck. It's been knocking, so something wrong with the bearings. I got to get the wheel hub or something replaced, and the brakes, and getting the brakes replaced. So I was scared actually just driving the truck up there because it could have broke down, and I got to make this hike again. This is a 3-hour drive, and so I got to drive another 3 hours to Kenton County Courthouse to be in front of Judge Easterling, who so far hasn't really given a shit about truth and justice, and it gives me shit. You're going to give me a lawyer and you're going to give me a jury trial. What fucking evidence do you have? And I would like to sue the shit out of him. I already said that too, but I'd like to sue him. That's, you know, that's embarrassing. I got headlines on it, and it's, you know, it's insulting. We don't see the bankers and powerful ever go to jail, but we see, you know, poor people go to jail over dumb, petty bullshit. So yeah, I'm a candidate, but I'm a citizen. I'm just a citizen without a job, so I'm unemployed. I'm not. If you got a job, you're actually, you know, you could do more. You know, you could have put $500 down and wrote your name down and been running for office too. So this isn't, you know, watch me. I'm the man for the job. This is, I guess, an opportunist sort of leap. You know, there's only one Democrat, one opposition Democrat that ran against Jack Conway. Nobody else jumped in. And the man that's in there is a good, you know, he's a good Green Party, progressive, true blue Democrat kind of guy. Kentucky would prosper. It would have a ton of money. It would go green. It'd be environmentally friendly. It would be smart. If you voted for Jeff Young, you'd be voting for smart government. So the judicial system is fucked. The cops are fucking criminal bastards. They don't give a shit. It's in their system. It's in my system, so I gotta arrest you. You got discretion, right? Well, yeah, probably, but no, not really. I'm just a pawn. A pawn to whose schemes? You know, does the library get any of this money, or does this just go to the general fund in fucking Frankfurt?